is autumn blondes, and really making shadow lights or transitional believable blondes for fall. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart as the educator. My name is Jessee Skittrall, and I'm going to be doing the conversation, and this is one of the reasons that this is so very near and dear to my heart, is I find as a hairdresser standing behind the chair in the salon, this time of year, this is really what we are talking about. I own Swank Style Studio in Everett, Washington, and I'm a senior creative design team member with Brocato as well. And I'm very excited to share this information with you. So before we actually get going, one of the things I really like to let people know is come chat with us on Facebook at brocatotoday.com and continue the conversation there as well. And let us know what your thoughts are on our webinars and any other topics that we need to have covered. Again, you'll see this presentation done on YouTube, at Brocato Salon YouTube if you want to search it. And then please post your pictures of your success using these techniques that we highlight here in the system on Instagram as well. And then, of course, the conversation consistently goes on Twitter at Brocato Today. So please join us on all these beautiful social medias. I personally love to use Pinterest a lot, and Instagram seems to be my personal favorites for this. So what we're going to talk about today is what are the scenarios that this is used for, why they happen and what's important, natural hair color characteristics, an application procedure, as well as some best practices, and then just a quick review at the very end. So here's the scenario that happens this time of year. We have the power blonde client who has gone really, really light. Maybe she's been a double processed blonde. Maybe she's been heavily highlighted, balayaged within an inch of her life. Or I know I personally in the salon do a lot of bumping the base and heavy highlights this time of year with my clients as well. And it looks really great. She's got a little bit of sun. She's got a little bit of tan. The contrast is nice with her skin tone and it's beautiful. But as we transition into the fall, you'll notice that there's less color going on in the skin, and the skin tone and the hair color become the same, and we feel washed out. So most people begin to feel the need to add a little bit of depth to their hair. And the challenge with that is when we go into, traditionally as hair colorists, we put in low lights into the hair. So we put in these lovely little streaks of brown, you know, she's a level 6. We put in low lights. The problem with that is it feels very artificial. And you'll find that most of your blondes are going to come back to you and say, oh my God, it feels so dark. Well, we can't go from blonde to a believable blonde without some sort of a transition. And that typically happens in the fall time. So how do we handle that situation? Well, one of the first things that I like to tell people is really be aware of natural hair color characteristics. Natural hair color characteristics are what we need to drive all of our color services against. So natural hair color characteristics say that the hair color at the scalp should be darker and cooler. Hair on the ends should be lighter and warmer. Hair around the face should be lighter, and it should be lighter at the tips, as well as darker at the nape. The last rule is probably the most important out of everything, is low lights should dominate, meaning that they should be underneath the hair and the size of the actual low light itself needs to be slightly wider and more impactful than the actual highlight to over dramatize it. And I find that a lot of times hair colorists make this mistake with low lights where they put them in and they put them in the same highlight size that they put their highlights in, and it just has a tendency to leave the hair looking dirty or washed out. So here's a really easy procedure to handle that situation. So you saw our guest earlier. She comes to the end of summer and she has this really bright power blonde, and we need to turn the volume down on it, but we don't necessarily want to low light the head, but she's also ready for a retouch at the same time. So what we did is we applied our breakpoint application. So you can see we're using diagonal forward sections, and you can slice or you can weave this, and we just did a traditional foil highlight retouch in this application. So it's some diagonal forwards and then some diagonal backs right in front of the ear all the way through the whole head and allow it to process. While that's processing, we're going to apply a color on our subsections in between. Now, the way that you want to formulate this color for your subsections is, one, we're going to use Brocato Color Project DEMI, partially because it's so easy and gentle on the hair, and it's going to have a soft age out of the hair, and it's going to leave the hair in incredible shiny shape. And usually at the end of summer, when you have that really powerful blonde, the hair is blown apart a little bit. This will just soften it down a little bit. So when you take a look at her hair, she's probably going to have a regrowth that's somewhere around a level 6. And those ends are going to be somewhere around a level 10. Sometimes they're a level 5, and those ends are a level 12. And what you want to do is take an average between the two. So a level 8 would be the average between the level 6 and the level 10. So in this situation, we're going to mix Brocato Color Project DEMI 8/0 and Liquid Activator in a 1-to-1 ratio for our formulation in between to give us that soft gradation. If she was a level 5 and the ends were a level 10, we'd probably choose a level 7 at that point. So something that's an average of everything that's in between. Once we've got all of our foils applied and we have a retouch, what we're going to do is go through our subsections, and on the very bottom at the occipital and below, we're going to apply our formula from the line of demarcation about 75% of the way down the strand of hair. So you want to make sure and give it a lot of depth and darkness to that subsection. What you don't want to do is pull it all the way through the ends, because again, natural hair color principles state that they should be deeper and cooler at the scalp and lighter and brighter at the ends. So this will give you a subsection that will go from a 6 to an 8 to a 10, which is a low light that would happen in that really bright blonde versus that extreme level 6 that extends itself all the way to the end. So you're going to do this at the occipital, everything below the ears, because hair at the occipital should be deeper and cooler and darker at the occipital. Hair in the mid-range, so from the parietal ridge down, you're going to do the same thing, but now you're going to pull it only about 50% of the way down the strand in between those subsections, just to give you a little background and shadow, but leave those ends dry. So it's a little bit of dry brushing. So again, you're starting from that line of demarcation and just working it about 50% of the way down the strand, leaving those bright ends at the very end. And then on the top, you're only going to do the bottom third of the strand. So you're going to leave a lot of that lightness on the surface of the hair, and it creates a shadow background to everything else that's done in between. Now, when you're doing this, you're probably going to notice that it turns the volume down on the depth of the hair quite a bit. So the first time you do this, you may choose to do every other subsection between your foils rather than every single section, just to get a feel for it. But this type of approach really helps eliminate that shocked blonde syndrome where you've gone in and darkened the hair, and she comes back typically and says, hey, I'm too dark, and then you're spending all your time and energy lightening it out of the hair. And then once you're all said and done, it's completely processed. You're going to take your guest back to the shampoo bowl, pull all of your foils out, and rinse completely. And then I like to apply one of our Brocato DEMI shears over the top of it. Partially, the DEMI shears are insanely incredible because the dye load is not quite as heavy, so it gives you that sheer pastel overlay of color on that really bright blonde hair that gives you a beautiful reflection to the hair and makes it feel a little bit more polished. When you're taking a look at some of the editorial hair color that you see that's on the red carpet, a lot of that's done with permanent hair color layered with demi-permanent hair color layered with semi-permanent hair color or a color refresher on the hair to get that intense base to the color. So just doing a demi-permanent in the sheared family over the top of it makes a huge difference. On our model, we actually did 9/07, so it's a level 9, 2 parts of a neutral with a nice soft sandy brown behind it. So it just gives it a little bit more of a gold beige soft finish to it over everything else. So we've applied our foils, just to recap. In between our subsections, we've taken our level 8 demi-permanent and worked it from the mid-lengths almost out to the ends, but not quite. And as we progressed up to the top of the head, we've left the ends so that they hang out and we get that nice veil of light over the surface of the hair. Here you can see the finished result. So this is that same guest, that same model at the end of the summer. Her hair's grown out a little bit, and now she wants something that's a little bit more believable. So rather than having extended lowlights that go all the way through the head, she's still very blonde, but the volume and the extent of the blonde is turned down exponentially on her hair, and you get a little bit more of a weedy blonde. Now moving into winter is when I would actually begin to introduce lowlights into her hair as well, and begin to turn down the volume even a little bit more. And then from winter moving into spring, we would obviously turn up the volume on her blonde a little bit. One of the things that I tell people when you're taking a look at a result like this, and especially when you see them side by side, this isn't about the guest having the one color was right and one color was wrong. It's really about making transitions with your guest as they go through the cycle. A natural, believable blonde would go exponentially blonde during the summer and then during the fall, the volume would naturally turn down. So this is a great way to migrate and give your guest something to look forward to as she moves through the seasons, rather than just having a static look all the way through. So you can see here 2 really great looks, same gal. We have a power blonde in the summer, and then towards the fall, we went with a little bit more of a wheat, softer blonde that turned the volume down, but she's still very blonde. So just some things that will help support this as you go along in some of our promotions. We have our buy 2, get 1 free on our styling promotions that's still going on right now. The pieces that are left out from this are our Big Easy and our Cloud9 Mousse and Actives. I would definitely send this guest home with some Vibra as well. Would be a really great choice for her. We still have leaders that are still going on with shampoos and conditioners. So it's that twice a year that we do leaders. That your guests can have that fabulous savings to take home, send her home with some Vibra, or even Cloud9 at the end of the season. It gets very intense. I personally like to mix and match a little bit. So I send my guests home with Saturate shampoo and Cloud9 treatment, or vice versa, and flip the 2 of them around so that I get that really healthy quality hair as we move into low lighting. Just some things to stick in your mind as we move forward into our September promotions. We are going to be having a promotion with our DEMI shears. The shears are going to have you purchase 5 of the sheer colors, and you actually get swatches for each color that you can put into your book. You've probably noticed the DEMI shears don't have a swatch, and we have to do the little bit of guessing game on what they look like. This will just give you a phenomenal visual of what they actually look like on your guest as well. Our next webinar is actually going to be September 8th, and that's going to be yours truly, me doing that. And then at that point, we're going to talk about low lighting for longevity. So that's really going to be about creating those distinct pieces, and how do I want to do that with or without filling, and what's the time that's appropriate for doing that as you move into the winter season. That's going to be a really great choice for you. So again, join us on Facebook, join us on YouTube, join us on Instagram and Twitter. Share what your thoughts were on Facebook about today's webinar. We kept it really quick and precise. Take a look at this on YouTube as well and check it out. Share your images of your blondes that have been turned down and toned down on Instagram. And then also chit-chat with us on Twitter and keep the conversation going. So, at this time, I'd like to just ask if there's any questions. I think we don't really have any questions. Oh, yes. Here's a question that we get quite a bit. Do you have to do the color wash at the very end of the service? No, you absolutely don't have to do the color wash at the very end of the service. You can definitely just let the pale platinum blonde be, and really make sure that you treat the quality hair and give it a little bit of a constructor shot. I find at the end of summer, I like to do a lot of constructor double shots where we're doing 2 to 3 constructors repetitiously just to get the hair in great shape and make it reflect and shine, and then put just DEMI clear over the top of it to make it really, really shiny. Thank you, Edward. I appreciate that. Great information. So I thank you guys for your time and your energy. We'll hang here on the webinar as well. If anybody has any more information or questions that they want to ask, we kept this one really quick and precise for today. And we appreciate your time and energy. Join us on Facebook for the conversation, and feel free to hit us up with any questions and share your successes with us. We'd love to hear that. I hope you all have a great day. Go and enjoy the sun wherever you're at.